Hey guys! So for this video, I'm going to be ranking the top 10 Fortnite players of 2019. Since New Year's was just the other day, there's really no better time to look back at the past year and highlight who's been the most consistent. We've seen tons of newcomers rise up and make a name for themselves, as well as established pros at the time slowly fade into obscurity. The point of my rankings though is to feature the 10 greatest players throughout the entire year. That means I'm going to include any and all competitions from last January up until the recent Winter Royale Duo tournament. I'm also going to weigh each placement and event differently according to how many players participated in each, whether or not it was a LAN, and how big the prize pool was. Lastly, try to keep in mind that this is just my opinion and for entertainment purposes only. Feel free to tell me what you did or did not agree with only after you watch the whole thing through. So with that being said, let's start with the 10th best player of 2019, unknownxarmy. Unknown is a relatively fresh face that flew under the radar for the first third of the year. Instead of playing competitively, Unknown strictly played public matches and bot race tourneys. That was until the Blackheart Cup at the end of March when he finally proved his skill and placed third overall in solos. From there, Unknown dominated in the World Cup qualifiers, specifically coming second and third in week 3 and 9 solo quals respectively. This not only secured him a ticket to New York, but also made him the only controller player to qualify more than once. After a weak showing at the World Cup finals, Unknown turned it up a notch and won 3 Champion Cash Cups in Season X. Finally, in Chapter 2, Unknown somehow only got better and won 3 more Cash Cups, as well as placing first in the Squad FNCS Grand Finals. So considering he had never played in scrims before the World Cup, his 4-month reign of terror undoubtedly secures him a spot on my list. Moving on, and the 9th spot on my list goes to FaZe Dubs. Just like Unknown, Dubs was a no-name leading up to March of 2019. That's when, out of nowhere, he consistently placed at the top of the Gauntlet and Share the Love events, the Scallywag Cup, and the World Cup warm-up. He literally played so well that the entire community was convinced he was cheating and using hacks. Still, Dubs continued to perform and qualified for the World Cup in the first week of solos. He also qualified in the following week of solos, and the week after that, and yes, even the week after that. In total, he qualified 4 times for solos and 1 time for duos. Then, at the World Cup finals, he brought home nearly $500,000 after finishing 7th in duos and 15th in solos. I will admit, Dubs has been quiet as of recent, but he's still been at the top of numerous Cash Cups, FNCS qualifiers, and the Chapter 2 Grand Finals. Coming in at number 8 is Mitro. Mitro had an extremely strong start to 2019 after he placed 5th at IEM Katowice. However, at that time, he was actually duoing with Kuna. Following some poor placements in the Scallywag Cup, he then decided to duo with Mongraal. And as you should know, they began to win everything. They finished 1st in the Lux Cup, placed 3rd in the EU warm-up, qualified twice for the World Cup, and came 6th at the Grand Finals in New York. Unfortunately, Mitro did not qualify for solos, but was still one of the most consistent European players. Fast forward to Season X, and Mitro was a vital part of the scariest trio in Europe. He, Mongraal, and Benji placed top 3 in 6 different Cash Cups, and top 2 in all 5 weeks of the FNCS qualifiers. Lastly, while Mitro did fall slightly out of the spotlight in Chapter 2, he still remained a top-tier pro, qualifying for the FNCS finals in squads and placing top 4 in 2 days of the Winter Royale. 7th up is another European god, this time by the name of Cooler Aqua. Similar to others on this list, Aqua didn't have any big placements until he won the European Solo Gauntlet in March. Then, after a strong showing in the World Cup warm-up, he qualified in both solos and duos. Easily Easily his greatest achievement though is winning the Duo Grand Finals in New York. Absolutely nobody expected him and Nyrox to win, especially after they repeatedly died off spawn. Nevertheless, they still came out on top and split a bag of $3 million. Soon after that, in trios, Aqua again won the FNCS Grand Finals for a total of $480,000. Squads, on the other hand, was a little rough on Aqua as he failed to qualify for the finals, but his talent as a solo player still prevailed. In Chapter 2 alone, he won 2 cash cups, placed second in another one, and set the world record for 27 kills in a tournament match. So to leave him off this list would truly be a crime. Next, the 6th best player of 2019 has to be NRG Benjyfishy. Benji exploded onto the scene after dominating in nearly every event of Season 8. In both solos and duos with Savage, he placed top 15 in a total of 8 different cups in a row. Then, following that insane run, his dominance continued as he won the World Cup warm-up and was the first player in the world to double qualify for the World Cup. On the main stage in New York though, Benji fell a little short, placing 14th in duos and 25th in solos. That somehow is not even half his story. During Season X, Benji led the trio I mentioned before with Mitro and started to consistently win solo cash cups. Even still, that wasn't his full form. Chapter 2 was when we finally saw Benji's true potential and watched him win another 2 cash cups and place second in the squad FNCS Grand Finals. So considering how strong he finished the year, Benji is my prediction for the best player of 2020. Back to 2019 though, and the number 5 spot goes to my arch rival, TSM Zexrow. As much as I hate to admit it, Zexrow is easily one of the most consistent players ever. At the Katowice LAN in Poland, he and Vinny came 3rd in duos and 22nd in solos. Here's where it gets interesting though. Around April, Zexrow was diagnosed with tendinitis in his wrist. This meant he had to stop playing and practicing altogether. Following nearly a month off the game, he came back and qualified for the World Cup in duos after finishing top 30 in 3 different weeks. Then, at the World Cup finals, he managed to place 9th and win $300,000. All of this as his wrist was still messed up and healing. Regardless, after that, Zexrow won another $300,000 by coming first in the Season X FNCS Grand Finals in trios. Finally, in Chapter 2, while he has been starting beef and slowly becoming a content creator, he placed second in the squad FNCS Grand Finals. More than halfway through, and the number 4 player is Ghost Saf. Now, Saf is most likely the first player some of you guys have not heard of. Reason being is he doesn't really stream and he only recently started uploading to YouTube. Trust me when I say though, Saf is one of the greatest competitive players of all time. At the Secret Skirmish in February, Saf won the Random Duos event and placed second in the solos competition. On top of that, Saf and his duo Zayt won IEM Katowice, the Scallywag Cup, and the 4th week of World Cup qualifiers. As favorites to win it all, they showed up big time in New York and placed 4th. That consistency continued over into trios, where Saf and Zayt teamed up with Zypha to come 4th in the FNCS Grand Finals. Lastly, and most recently, they placed 4th in the squad FNCS Grand Finals for Chapter 2. So while not necessarily winning every event, Saf was always at the top of the standings and the leaderboards. Onto my top 3, and the 3rd best player this year is undoubtedly Mongraal. Coming into 2019, Mongraal was already recognized as a top tier pro, and even with so much to live up to, he actually exceeded most people's expectations. To start, Mongraal won the Share the Love event, the Lux Cup, and placed 3rd in the World Cup warm-up. In qualifiers, Mongraal got a ticket to New York in both solos and duos. Then, at the actual World Cup, Mongraal had a slow start to both events, yet still placed 6th in duos and 13th in solos. solos. That not only made him more than $400,000 in total, but was also the best combined performance across both events. After that, I've said it 2 times already, but Mongraal slayed out in trios with Mitro and Benji, winning seemingly every qualifier and cash cup. Finally, Mongraal came in 2nd in the squad FNCS qualifiers and 7th in the Winter Royale. So while Benji did slightly overshadow him in Chapter 2, Mongraal's entire year was incomparable. Speaking of unparalleled years, Bugha's 2019 is definitely deserving of my number 2 spot. Following a slow first 4 months, Bugha saw his first glimpse of stardom after finishing 10th in the Share the Love event and 2nd in the World Cup warm-up. Then, just a week later, he placed 1st in the initial week of solo qualifiers and 6th another week later in the duo week. That was not enough to double qualify, but was more than enough to go to New York for solos. There, in the grand finals, Bugha absolutely dominated and nearly doubled the 2nd place finisher in points. More importantly though, he won $3 million and undeniably became the best player in the world. With all his newfound fame, Bugha still continued to perform after the World Cup in Season X and qualified every single week for the Trio FNCS Finals. Lastly, in Chapter 2, Bugha remained a top solo and duo player, most notably winning the Week 4 Cash Cup and placing 3rd in the Winter Royale with his brother Stretch. Now, you're most likely wondering who could possibly be above Bugha. Well, the only answer is NRG Zayt. Zayt has been a top player ever since competitive Fortnite began and is, in my opinion, the greatest IGL in the history of the game. In February, he placed 16th and 7th at the Secret Skirmish and then placed 7th and 1st at IEM Katowice. Additionally, he came 2nd in the NA East Gauntlet and won the Scallywag Cup with Saf, who I said was the 4th best player of 2019. In World Cup qualifiers, Zayt qualified a total of 4 times, 3 times in duos, and once in solos. Then, as a favorite to win the World Cup, he did fall short in solos, but really showed up in duos. To be more specific, he and Saf split $1.5 million after coming in 4th. Thereafter, he led his trio to 4th in the Season X FNCS Grand Finals, 1st in 3 different FNCS squad weeks, and 4th in the Chapter 2 Grand Finals. Altogether, that kind of consistency and pure excellence across every event is why I believe Zayt is the best player of 2019. Overall, guys, those are who I believe to be the top 10 players of 2019. So, if you enjoyed the video, then do be sure to drop a like, subscribe to the channel, and to turn on post notifications. Shout out to everyone using code itsJerian. I forgot to thank you guys last video, so please do forgive me. Otherwise, that's it from me, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Later.
Produced by Bugha. Sound production.